Welcome to this week's episode of Mindset Mentoring for Athletes, Entrepreneurs, and Families. This week we'll be continuing our conversation about mental health and mindset. In particular, we'll be talking about high school athletes and college athletes. And I'll be pleased to welcome Coach Bucket Benzer to the show this week. So stay tuned for that.
Are you ready to elevate your success, whether you're a student, athlete, parent, or entrepreneur? Success Institutes offers transformational programs designed to unlock your full potential in every area of life. With webinars, masterclasses, and mindset training, we provide cutting-edge techniques to help you master your thinking. It's more than just knowledge. It's a life-changing transformation. Instead of paying thousands for a university course, our programs guide you in building the mental, emotional, and physical habits for true success and confidence. Starting with From Stuck to Unstoppable and Unchain Your Potential, we have something for everyone, including tools for families, like our Mindset Transformation Training and 10-Week Habits program. Plus, parents receive our book Confidence for Teens, a new chapter for family, free with just shipping and handling, to help guide their teens through personal growth. And whenever you enroll your family in any of our Mindset of a Champion training packages, you will get our bonus course on winning college scholarships, potentially saving you tens of thousands of dollars. Worried about time, cost, or even willpower? Our programs are designed to fit seamlessly into your life without overwhelming you. We help you prioritize effectively, leveraging the power of synergy and accountability partners to significantly boost follow-through and motivation, ensuring your team stays engaged. And compared to the cost of traditional education, what we offer is life-changing and far more affordable in the long run. If you're asking, will this really work for me? We believe it will. We even offer a satisfaction guarantee if you complete the program and aren't satisfied. Take the next step. Schedule your discovery call today, and let's unlock your full potential together.
Coach Bucket has an extensive background in baseball with 3 years of professional experience in the sport. He has collaborated with Major League Baseball organizers, gaining valuable insights and connections within the industry. As the owner and operator of Fundamental Baseball, a 501c3 program, Coach Bucket has dedicated himself to developing young athletes through comprehensive training and mentorship. His commitment to athlete development continued with his role at Legendary Athletes, where he focused on recruiting programs for college players. In addition to his on-field expertise, Coach Bucket has worked alongside renowned mental performance coach Alan Jaeger, emphasizing the importance of strong mental approach to the game. Currently, he is a key member of the SGB Baseball Academy in West Palm Beach, Florida. The Academy is focused on preparing both youth and professional athletes to excel not just in their sport, but also their lives beyond the field. Coach Bucket also is in the process of writing a book for parents called Call the Ride Home, which aims to provide guidance and support for those navigating the journey of youth sports. With a passion for the game and commitment for fostering the next generation of athletes, Coach Bucket continues to make a significant impact in the world of baseball. So let's welcome Coach Bucket to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chuck. It's great to see you.
Great to see you, and thank you for taking the time out to join me for this important conversation. So let's kind of jump right in. And, with your experience at all levels, from youth, high school, college, professional, can you kind of talk about how that experience at all those different age groups and all has influenced your approach to the mental aspect of coaching?
Yeah, that's great. I went through your questions that you asked me to focus on. And the primary one that happened to me when I was young and in my development years, I didn't have a father, I didn't have a mentor, and I was gifted to be a great, baseball player. As I got into my professional career, I had no preparation. I had no idea. I didn't understand what failure meant. and it was very stressful for me. I had an arm injury, and I decided to get into coaching. So what I learned about that is how important mentoring is. Somebody you can trust, somebody you can share personal information with, that is somebody that cares about you. And I really took a liking to that, and it's something that stuck with me. As I go through my career, I read this quote many years ago, and it said, "The meaning of life is to find your gift." And I believe that I've been given a gift. And the purpose of life is to give it away. And that's what I've been doing. I do that for the last 40 years, worked with athletes from, little tykes to high school kids to college kids. And I've had a great time working with a handful of major league players, some currently still playing, some are retired. And I took all that information that I've been able to get from that experience, put it into my own philosophy, and give it back. And it seems to be really working, because there's a real void right now in the things I experience every day in my training, and it's just peer pressure. And if you're not prepared for it, baseball is a game of adversity. You fail more than you succeed. So you have to have a mentality and a process to be able to handle the failure. And if you don't, what happens is you self-destruct mentally. And I've seen many, many kids, not understanding that process. And that's what I'm teaching today in my work. Not only how to hit, throw, infield, those are mechanical things, but the mental part of the game is missing. If you think about baseball in the context of what people say, that the game is 90% mental. Well, you go look at a practice, high school, college practice, and if the game is 90% mental, what station in their practice plan is focused on mental? And the answer is almost zero. And that's where I got involved with Alan Jaeger. Alan is he's an expert. He's endorsed by Major League Baseball as the mental coach. He also is very involved in arm care and arm action. And working with Alan really opened my eyes of the missing link in the professional athlete on the mental side. And so the things that, and if you ever go to JaegerSports.com, you can click on his whole mental plan. You can click on his arm care plan, but the mental plan explains a lot of the detail of what's missing with athletes. So let's break it down to the younger kids. For example, right now I'm working with a group of 12 students on Monday, Wednesday, Friday at SGB Baseball Academy. They come there Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for hitting, fielding, and throwing. But I've incorporated the mental part of it. Now, understand they're 12 and 13 years old. So what that means is I'm teaching them how to shake hands. And when you look somebody in the eye, because 90% of the kids that walk in there, they look at the ground and they don't know how to make a handshake. That's a huge part of your confidence. We also talk about accomplishing something before you start your day. Make your bed. Who sleeps in it? You do. So make your bed. And that's a process that they're implementing. It may sound trivial, but it's really important building confidence. We talk about in the training I'm doing that every day, if you can try to do 3 random acts of kindness and expect nothing in return. And I give them many examples. So you're building your confidence by helping others. You're building your confidence about accomplishing something. And so those things make a big difference in their approach. And they all have a journal, and we journal every day. So now take a group of, again, 12 and 13-year-olds. The first 15 minutes of the 2-hour class, we go into a room and we get quiet. I'm trying to teach them. We're not talking about meditation. We just get quiet. We try to get rid of all the things that we were doing prior to coming here. We just got out of school. I'm in the Boy Scouts. I got to be at a certain place. So we get quiet, and I ask them to just learn how to breathe and reset and get prepared for the training. So that's helping them a lot in their preparation. Now we're focused on the next 2 hours of what we're going to teach. Once we're done with the teaching, the mechanical parts, we go back in the room and we journal what we learned. And then we also journal what we're going to do tomorrow to make our day better as far as our focus. Because most of these kids, and now I'll go from 12 all the way to 18, are living under peer pressure. Everything that they're doing in their sport is all focused on one thing, and that's winning. And I understand winning. I love to win, but there's a process to win. There's a preparation to win. And then when we don't win, how do we handle that adversity? Or why do we keep defining it as failure? Because I don't consider it failure if you prepared yourself, you had a plan, you implemented your plan to the best of your ability, you gave your best effort, and that's all you can control. You can't control the outside of the game. You can't control the umpire. You can't control the weather. So why do you get so focused on things you can't control? We try to teach them how to stay within themselves and control their thinking. And when things don't go well, we implement a process called reset. Okay? You got 3 to 5 minutes to reset. I just struck out. Okay? Didn't feel good. Now I need to process it. And we reset by doing 3 things. We get rid of it mentally. We breathe. Breathing is really important to reset the mind. And we go back onto the field or back into the situation with a positive attitude. I'm going to do better this time. And it works because kids today come to me and tell me the process of reset really helps me get back into the present. And you can do it in the game. You got a picture on the mound. He has the ball in his hand. All he has to do is step behind the rubber for a minute, clear his mind, reset, breathe, and then plate the rubber and go back to executing the pitch. Instead of just fighting it mentally and getting tighter and tighter, and then the brain shuts down, and then I'm just constantly in a panic mode because the umpire is calling this, my parents are yelling at me from the stands. No, we learn to reset, breathe, and then execute. So those are things that have been working really interesting and well for me with young kids. And then college kids, it's a whole other piece of work with them because of all the different distractions. But, in reading a lot of your questions, probably the biggest thing I see, and that's the reason I'm writing the book, is the peer pressure from the parents. It's just completely gone from A to Z in this travel ball world with all the competitive teams and the peer pressure from the parents that you're not being able to do the things I thought you could do. And the pressure is so overwhelming that they just want to quit. It's just too much for them. And it's destroying their mental state of mind in the classroom because they're worried about what's going to happen if they get home, if they don't do something, exactly the way it's supposed to be done. And it's even 10 times worse on the baseball field. It's just pure pressure. And that's the reason I'm writing the book about the ride home. Now, you take a player and you take him to training, you got a pitching coach, you got a baseball coach, and you spend all this money, and then they go to a tournament, and the young man or the young girl, strikes out, maybe makes a big error. And as soon as the child gets in the car, the parents just unload on them. Because I have about 50 examples of, the sabotage of the coach doesn't understand what he's doing. He batted you 8th and put you in right field. I don't understand. You can't hit the ball. I take you to this hitting guy, and you're constantly striking out. And this is the ride home. Well, that poor kid or that young lady is just being humiliated by the parents, which there's not a parent or a player in the country that I know that wants to fail in front of his parents. So what happens there is they come with just this attitude of, I can't do this. because of the pressure. So I'm trying to teach them how to prepare for that type of a failure through mental practice, breathing, reset, putting a positive thought in their mind. And I'm also the reason I'm writing the book is for the parents. They need to understand how to manage an athlete, okay? Because the game, we're talking about baseball, it's a game of failure. So if parents don't understand what their child is playing and what their role is as a parent, all they're doing is self-destructing the athlete, and they end up quitting. Then there's a lot of problems once they quit, because they go through life thinking, I failed, so I'm looking for an outlet. And that outlet may be drugs, maybe alcohol, it may be something that's outside the scope of life. And I've seen that happen in a lot of occasions. So those are some of the things I've experienced in a short period of time that I've come up with ways to tailor that athlete to learn how to prepare and to deal with failure and how to pay it forward to get a feeling of success internally.
That's wonderful. There's a whole lot you just said in there that could really kind of unpack. There's at the professional level, they have people available, but they don't really have any training program, right? It's not programmed in. They have people available to help once basically things are going wrong. I just had a interview with a young man who was at the University of Maine. He was drafted by the Giants. He just finished his first full season in A-ball, and talking to him about the experience going from high school to D1, now to the minors. And there really was nothing at any of those transitions. The transition from high school to college, there really wasn't anything there. The transition from college to the minors, there was a little bit more there, but nothing real structured. And we were having that conversation about that. And there's one thing when I was looking at like some of the numbers that he had, and I asked him about this, but his split from road games to home games was dramatic. Mm-hmm. And I was wondering how much might have been the travel and being thrown out of routine. Routines mm-hmm. are so important. And when you travel, it's very easy to get thrown out of routines. And there's little things like that that you can see in minors, in the college game, that don't get addressed. And those are easy fixes. But when you see sometimes those splits, and yes, of course, there are sometimes you play at a home ballpark that might, favor hitting. But when you see like 100-point difference in batting average, that's not all ballpark. So there's things like that just people don't pay attention to, yeah, go ahead.
In addition to that, you were talking about the elite side. You take a kid that's going from high school, okay, now he's thinking about going to a college to play baseball, okay? And that's a huge jump because now you're leaving home. Are you going to be in a commuter school? Are you going to be in a dorm? Are you going to be in a fraternity? What's the academic load? And to be able to play on the baseball team, there's a whole process there that hasn't been taught, okay? These kids just want to go to a college, of course, and play baseball. But the primary purpose of going to college and play baseball is to get a college education. So there's two factors going on there, and there's very little preparation for that jump, okay? Because it's a huge jump going from high school to college, even though you played a lot of travel ball and a lot of showcase tournaments and preparation. But what about the mental side, the academic load, the travel, the nutrition, all the things that come into equation that you're able to do when you're at home? Now you're on your own. And yeah, I understand we have tutors and we have people that can help us, but they're not always accessible to everybody. And there's people that keep getting further and further behind because they're not prepared to do that. And that's a huge mental part of preparing to go to the next level in college. That's what I see in the recruiting process that I talk about. The kids come to me all the time and say, "Hey, I'm ready. I want to go to a college, and I'm going to go to this showcase." And I said, "Why are you going to a showcase in Arizona? Why don't you tell me 3 colleges that you want to go to because of academics?" Division I colleges are academic institutions. They're not minor league baseball or Major League Baseball. So tell me 3 schools or 4 that you want to go to academically. And then tell me why you want to go to those schools because of academics. What do you want to leave there with? And they tell me. And then I say, well, then you go on their website because that's the school you want to go to. And you look at their camp that they have. They all have prospect camps. And you send an email about your academics and why you want to go there and that you're going to be at the baseball camp. So the reason I teach that is because that's where you want to go. You go to a showcase in Arizona and somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, I want to offer you something to a small school in Mississippi," and you don't want to go there. It's not on your agenda. Then why are you showcasing people that you might get an opportunity, but you don't want to go there? So in addition to that process of getting prepared for college, academics first. I mean, think about this. To be a Division I head coach, you have to have a master's. Why is that? It's an academic institution. I was able to work at Stanford University under Mark Marquez, and he's measured on his academic rate on how many guys graduate, not how many times he goes to the College World Series. So the kids have to understand that, okay? And there's a whole mental side to that in preparing them and the parents on how to get that kid ready mentally for that type of environment.
Yeah, totally. That transition from high school to college, athletics aside, is a big transition. That's a major transition for kids. When you add on the demands of trying to manage a sport as well, it adds a whole nother layer of potential stress and all. And kids, they aren't prepared for it. And there's all kinds of reasons and talk about what's been happening. But the more people like yourself I talk to and all, we see it. College coaches see it. We're seeing the results of it. But nothing, well, I shouldn't say nothing. There are attempts being made to do things about it. Like, you're working on that. But it's just not enough right now. And with athletes, we're talking about athletes. Oftentimes these athletes, especially if you're good, right? If you're in high school and you're one of the guys or gals who, stand out as an athlete, you're supposed to be mentally tough. So when you're feeling those things inside, you really bury it. And you put on all this bravado and other things so you don't show it, because you aren't supposed to show that. You're one of the best. You're the tough people. And that hiding it and that burying it is a very difficult thing physically, mentally, emotionally. And you will see, right, that you mentioned some of the things. They present all that confidence in that one area, but then you get outside that area and they are floundering, they're feeling lost, they self-medicate, they do all these other behaviors that are a symptom of the greater problem, which is not having the tools or skill set or know-how to deal with the storms of life, because they come, they come whether you want them to or not. They're going to come.
It's peer pressure. I see it all the time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I just see they're put on a pinnacle. They're the best of the best, and they're supposed to be the best. But when the game's over and they're in the social world, they really struggle because they're not prepared for that mentally. You go to a big time college and there's a lot of distractions. There's a lot of temptations. How do you stay focused? How do you keep your goals in front of you? How do you not get caught up in all the popularity and all the other things that go on? And there's nothing wrong with all that activity, but you have to have a mental approach to it. You have to have a get out of jail card when you're put in a fraternity party and you're a student athlete on scholarship, and there's a lot of things going on there. How do you focus on shifting your mind back to what I'm here for and move on? And it's not easy. I've seen a lot of very, very good athletes go on to Division I colleges and get caught up in all the other things outside of their original goal, because they told me when they come back, I just wasn't prepared for all this. It was like, going from high school to the World Fair. There was things going on everywhere.
Yeah.
So you have to prepare them for that. You have to explain to them what they're going to be challenged with and how it's going to affect their mental society, their thinking, if you will, on decision making. And that's something that we talk a lot about with the more advanced athletes at SGB, is what you're going to be faced with when you get to the next step and how you're going to work through that. And it pertains to the game as well as society. You got all this social media, and you got all these different places. And all it takes, and I've seen this happen, you got an athlete that got scholarship to a major college, and somebody takes a couple pictures of him on a couch passed up with a beer in his hand, and somebody puts it on Facebook or whatever those sites are. That kid is gone. Once the coach sees that, and they know what to look for, because they have all these people in the school surfing your social media to understand what kind of character you are, because we just invested in you, you're going to lose your scholarship. Really? They say, really? Why can't we go to a fraternity and party? That's not why they brought you here. You can go, but you better understand what you're doing, and you're under a microscope because you're on scholarship. We're paying you to come here. So that's another piece that, kids don't really realize they're getting into as we migrate into this crazy world of social media, because everybody knows everything about everybody.
Yeah. There's a book called The Anxiety Generation by Jonathan Haidt, who's a professor at, I think it's NYU. I'm not positive which New York school he's at, but it's an excellent book. But the whole social media thing is the brunt of that book, and the smartphones and all of that, and how it has played in to the escalating amount of anxiety, and anxiety in particular, but depression also, that kids are experiencing. My youngest son went to a top 10 D3 school and wanted to play at the local university under legendary Hall of Fame coach. And he wasn't recruited. He was small for his size, and this is a real good D3 program. But he walked on and made the team. For a couple of years, he was with them. And that team had a sports psychologist available. And they even had a class that they had to take. And he and his friends, I asked them about it, and they didn't like the class. It taught them some book stuff, things that I had taught them, right, as I coached them going through some of the fundamental things that any sports psychologist or mindset coach or whatever is going to kind of teach you. But there is nothing about showing you how to really develop those skills and train it. We don't expect a kid to read about lifting weights and read about some sort of strength and conditioning program and just say, yeah, read that, now go do it. We show them how to do it, we give them the training, then we coach them through the proper techniques, and we keep at it with them. Seems like on the mental side, a lot of it is here. You need to breathe. You need to meditate. You need to do this. And they don't really show how or then. This is my big thing. This is one of the things as part of my training program, help them create the habit, right? It's that habit that's going to make it. And habits aren't easy to create. So that requires consistency every day for an extended period of time. And that's where some of this stuff really breaks down, I think. Can you speak to that for a moment?
Yeah, routine. You have to develop a routine. Habit is something that you commit to, you practice it, and then it becomes a way of your life. It's like I'm teaching these kids, you make your bed. It's the first thing you do in the morning. 10, 12, 13, 14 years old, kids don't make their bed. You've accomplished something. That becomes a habit. Okay? And you form those kind of habits. We also follow the model PDCA, plan, do, check, act. So it's a model. You get up in the morning and you put together what is your plan for the day. It could be 4 or 5 or three or four bullets of what you plan to do. And then you do it for the day. And at the end of the day, you check it. Did I accomplish these things? Did I follow this habit that I've decided to implement? Did I follow this process that I decided to implement? And if you didn't, or if you did, you check it off. If you didn't, you take action and you go back and you change the plan for tomorrow. So you incorporate it because you skipped that one. And so it's a methodology that we follow: plan, do, check, act. And the act is to go back and change the plan. But if you don't have a plan or a focus or a habits that you want to implement each day that you can go back and review, you're just going to come up with excuses or this happened or that happened. Well, then that's not really a plan. And if you follow the structure, there's always a place to check it, and there's always a place to take action and change it. But if you think about it every day and you do it, it becomes a routine. And it's an easy tool to use because I do that every day before I head off to the facility. What is my plan today? What do I want to accomplish? And what do I want to drive home tonight at 8:00, knowing that I was able to meet those expectations or those plans that I implemented? And if I can't answer those, then I need to change my plan for the next day. And it's a habit that I've built into myself. A habit of, taking supplements in the morning. I'm getting a little bit older, so I like to have supplements, and a habit of going to the gym every day to get my daily dose of exercise. And I like to walk. So these are things that I've built into my plan in addition to my teaching and mentoring. So every day when I go to the facility, I have some type of a plan that I want to implement, and I want to be able to see the results or feel the results or understand why I didn't get the results on my way home. So it's kind of like I take an inventory of the day at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's got real life practical applications. I mean, yesterday I did a presentation yesterday, and as my routine is, right, I do things to prepare before it and then after it. And in the after it, when you review and you go through things, it's like I was reviewing my performance and I kind of went, oh, gee whiz, I was quite sure that I left out a piece that I really wanted to get in there. And I don't know for sure because I don't have the video recording, and I was kind of in that, that flow state, right? And I'm just doing it. But afterwards, as I was reviewing, it felt short. Like that was shorter than what I felt it should have been. And this is a memorized presentation I give. But that process of reviewing and journaling is part of the routine. And that's something, I talk all the time about rituals that people need to develop, and not just athletes. but athletes have two other rituals besides the one everybody else should do, and that is the pre-practice and competition ritual and post-practice competition ritual, which is a little bit different than what you should do whether you're an athlete or not. Like, you should have a morning and an evening ritual regardless, and then you should have a ritual before you compete and afterwards, bookending that competition, so you can learn and grow and assess and do all those things that you need to do. And those are the things that really seem to be missing in a lot of trainings. The other thing that you kind of mentioned there, I want to kind of get your feedback and see what you're doing. But when you talk about getting the kids doing these routines, and this is where in the work I do, I do my utmost to engage the parents, because ultimately, like, if they are going to be checking in with me once, twice a week, that's okay, but they need to be doing some of the things I'm giving them every day. Mm-hmm. At teenagers, if they don't have accountability at home, if they don't have somebody there helping them at home, it's going to fall through the cracks. So I really try to get the parents doing the program with the kids, so they're all doing it together, and it has, the benefits for the family unit, relationship-wise, accountability-wise, follow-through. It's really, really important. So is there anything that you do to try to help encourage parents to help with the process?
Yeah, I speak a lot to the parents about their role. And that's about the ride home and how to communicate with the athlete. That's what I do huge. But what I do, the opposite of what you do, which is they both probably work the same, is I tell the kids, these are some of the things you need to do. So when you get home, I want you to share that with your parents on these are some of the things I want to start doing or I learned that I need to do, and I need the parents to just, to support them. So a lot of the kids that I work with don't want their parents there because they feel like they're going to say the wrong thing. And that's the freedom of having a mentor. And a mentor, in my role as a mentor, is that they can trust me. We can have open communication. I don't care what it is. And I've had many communications with older kids about things way outside of baseball, and that it's anonymous, that I keep it together unless I'm sensing something that the parent needs to know about that's really mental illness. And I pick up on that pretty easily. Doesn't happen a lot, but I try to hold the student more accountable of learning things in their journal, taking it home and explaining to their parents, these are the things that we talked about me implementing into my behaviors and my habits. And can you support me? Or can you provide me with something that will help me achieve that? Because the mentoring, like when I coached in high school, I gave all my kids my cell phone number. And I say, you are going to be somewhere on a Friday night, and you're not going to want to be there. And somebody's going to be drinking, and you have no problem. You call me, I'll pick you up. So I don't want to have to go pick you up at jail or get in a car accident. I'll take you home, and then I'll explain to the parents, they're the ones that have to deal with it. And then I'll deal with it when you come to the baseball field. But they could trust me. They knew they had a little get out of jail card, because a lot of kids are afraid of their parents, the ones I've been working with. This is a pretty fluent area. So there's a lot of people here that have very high expectations on their children. So what I'm doing is having the child or the student come up with the things we need to implement, and then sharing it with the parents, and then how the parents can support it. And I've got good feedback from that approach and mentoring. Ability is what you're capable of doing. Your ability is what you're capable of doing. Your motivation is determined by what you do. But the whole key to it is your attitude determines how well you do it. And I talk a lot about the attitude when you're talking to your parents about the things that you need. It's not that they're going to just subsidize and do everything for you. It's your program. You just want them to understand it and support it.
Yeah, and I agree with you with that idea of a mentorship, which is even as a coach, you try to build that relationship, but that mentorship is takes that to a slightly different level. And when I'm working with teenagers, I want to make myself available for them when they need to have a conversation. That sometimes, I've got 4 kids of my own, so I know that sometimes as the kids don't necessarily want to have that conversation with you, right? So if they can have that other person, that can be very beneficial. So that there's a subtle difference, but mentorship is it's something that it's powerful both ways. It works both ways, right? We as mentors take stuff from that, and then we give a whole lot back as well. I did want to kind of talk briefly too a little bit about this idea of, you had mentioned back at kind of the beginning, this idea of winning, right? Where the pressure to win, and again, I hate losing, right? There's that line from the movie Moneyball that I hate losing more than I love winning, or something to that effect. And learning to understand that is another one of those teaching moments, and it's related to mindset because it's related to your beliefs about what it means to win, and I say that deliberately, right? It's not just about defeating your opponent or whatever. There's a lot more to it. Can you talk about your approach to that and trying to ground kids and how you measure their success, right? Or how you try to get them to measure their success?
Yeah, the measurement part's a little bit different, but what I talk about winning, because there's nobody that's more competitive than me. But to me, I teach them that winning, the word win, WIN, stands for what's important now. So if you really want to win, what's important now as you prepare for the game? Do I have everything in place? Is my mindset right? Am I ready to handle adversity? What's important now is the approach that we take instead of just winning. So if I do all the things that I feel are important now, and I give my best effort in a game or in a situation, my best effort, and only I or you know your best effort, then regardless of the scoreboard, regardless of it, I feel I'm a winner. I know it's a team sport, but I did everything within my plan. I did what's important now. I followed through. And yeah, we lost as a team, but internally I feel like a winner because I prepared and I implemented and I did what I said I was going to do. So winning to me is just focusing on the elements in front of you that you can control on what's important now, because that can change throughout the game. What's important now is I'm going to be pinch hitting in the 8th inning. Can I see the arm action? Do I understand this guy's throwing hard or soft or whatever? Have I processed that information in the on deck circle? And do I go up to the plate? Do I work the count properly? Do I put a good swing on it? I put the best swing I could on it, and the shortstop reaches up and makes a great play. I know that's not a hit, but I did everything within my plan to execute that at bat. I feel like a winner. I know it's easier said than done, but once you teach it, I've had a lot of kids come back to me and say, I had a great game. I did this, that, and this, and yeah, we lost, but I felt really good about my contribution.
Yeah. That's, I talk a lot about it's the striving to achieve your best and do your job consistently to the best of your ability. It's that process, right? That winning is all about, it's not specifically about the outcome, it's about the journey for that outcome, right? And when you are kind of checking those boxes, the things sometimes just out of your control, right? You played a great game, you did everything you could, but it just didn't happen this time. Those are all those life lessons. You focus on what you need to learn, and then you go back at it again. It's one of the things I think I did really well with the younger kids in baseball in particular was teaching them how to focus on the moment, right? So it's one pitch at a time. That was a mantra the kids heard from me from pre-Little League on up through. And a lot of the teams I've worked with had a reputation for making some really dramatic comebacks. Down in an all-star game with 2 outs in the bottom of the last inning, down 5 runs, come back and win. And it was always about one pitch. It's the next pitch. I don't care if you swung and missed. I don't care if you fouled, whatever. It's, all right, next pitch, next pitch. And when you have that in the moment kind of focus, all the other external kind of pressures just kind of disappear. You want to speak to anything like that, or?
Yeah, being present is really important, but you have to learn how to do it because people can, they can stray. There's a lot of things going on in the game, and that's the reset process of getting reset and getting my mind prepared because I think I'm going to be third up this inning. Okay, so I have to, stay in the present is an easy word, but it's a hard thing to do. But when you learn to do it, if you watch, because I've been around a lot of high-level professional athletes, there's a process that they go through mentally and prepare for their at-bat or to go into pitch. And they follow it, and they're real quiet. They get quiet, they get rid of things out of their head, and they focus only on the element. Albert Pujols told me when he's in the batter's box, there's 40,000 people screaming and yelling, okay? He hears none of them. He hears nobody in those stands. He only is thinking about one thing. Where is the ball? Where's the ball? Where's the ball? Where's the ball? And then the pitcher delivers the ball. That's the only thing he's focused on. Now, on the other side of that, some of the infielders in the professional level I've worked at, throughout 9 innings of the game, okay, they'll do their pre-step as the pitcher delivers the pitch, and they're saying to themselves the whole game, hit me the ball. So what that does is their mind's already ready for something because they want the ball versus standing there at shortstop or second base thinking about their last at bat, or where are they going to eat today, or this team is not doing well. They're thinking about hit me the ball. So then it's really easy for the mind to react because I've already told it I want that ball. And same with I want hitting wise, where is that ball? I'm not worried. I don't go to the batter's box thinking about, I hope I get a hit today. I haven't got a hit in 4 days. You're done. You have to have throughout the entire game, bench or on the bases or in the batter's box, on the field, you have to have a positive thought in your mind for 9 innings. It's a 2-hour game. Once you put something negative in that mind, the mind will convince you, okay, you're a failure. Oh, I hope I get a bat. I hope he doesn't hit it to me. Well, you're set up to fail. So I've learned this from professional athletes on the things that they do to stay in the present for 9 innings. And it makes a lot of sense. And I teach that to kids at all ages, and they say it makes a huge difference because I'm constantly in the game. I'm not wandering. Now, 10, 11, 12, those kind of kids will try it, but the kids that are in high school and college, they can do it for 9 innings, and it makes a huge difference on the reaction to a ball hit to them because I'm telling myself I want the ball, and where is the ball? So now I'm tracking a baseball into the zone, and no wonder I'm able to hit it because that's all I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking about the people yelling at me.
Yeah, I like that. And I had a conversation with Mike Bordick and talking about his consecutive games and inning streak without making an error, which he still holds that record. And I talk a lot about anchoring, which is getting into, your emotional state and all gets linked to some sort of external stimulus. And it can be, your habits can act as anchors. But when he practiced ground balls all the time. To it was not he wasn't just taking ground balls. He's looking at every ground ball, trying to be perfect with every ground ball during practice, getting his feet right, his momentum right, eyes below the ball, all these things. Every ground ball he took in every practice. And it finally manifests itself into that streak of his that, to go an entire season and make one error at shortstop is just, to me, just mind-boggling, right? But it was that all the things we've talked about so far is the routine, the practice, the anchoring, the avoiding the distractions. It was being in the moment. He also said that, like, when he left home to go to the ballpark, as soon as he got in that car, boom, it was all baseball the whole time. And it was all baseball until he got home and got out of the car. And as soon as he got out of the car, he was letting it go, and his focus was going to be on his wife, his kids, or family, whatever. Mm-hmm. That ability to compartmentalize is crucial. It's really, really valuable and important.
You have to practice it, though.
Yeah, right. Practice.
It becomes a practice behavior. Okay, and that's the process we've been talking about. Where does it start? In your situation, it started in the car. A lot of guys with the same thing. It's the ride to the ballpark, the game, and then on the way home, I want to at least kind of process how I did, what was my contribution, and most important of all, what was my effort? Did I give my best effort? Or was it too hot? Or I didn't eat right? All these excuses. The one thing I've learned or been able to experience and see is all the players that I've been able to help and work with at the major league level do two things that most kids don't do. One is their work ethic. Their work ethic is committed to excellence, and no matter what, they do their work ethic better than anybody else, and nobody will ever out-hustle them. It doesn't mean they're any better than the other guy. They just refuse to labor fake or go through the motions. And the second thing they do, and I saw this consistently, is they never, ever have an excuse. There's no reason for an excuse because I can control all the things that I decide to do. So I can't come up with an excuse, oh, it's too hot, or the umpire doesn't do this, or my parents didn't help me get ready for the game. Those are all your responsibilities. And once you learn that, that becomes that learned behavior to prepare you for the mental part of this game of adversity.
Yeah, absolutely. We're near the end of our time, but I got one more comment I want to see if you'll maybe comment on. I've done a little bit of research at this point on, like, I looked at the first round draft picks, and I'm talking about baseball, but I have a suspicion it could go over into the other sports as well. And I looked at the first round draft picks from 2001 to 2010. And I've also started looking at some of the big free agent signings. And when you look at those first round draft picks, these are the guys who check in all the boxes on the scouting reports, right? Their speed, their agility, their eye hand, all those things, arm speed, everything. They're like top-notch athletes. Yet only about 60-something% of those, I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head, made it professionally as pitchers and like 70% as hitters. And their average time was about 6 years, and their average statistics weren't significantly better than the average player. And when you look at some of the big free agent signings, very often after the big signings, nagging injuries or more serious injuries begin to happen. Chris Sale, Trevor Story, Anthony Rendon, you could go on and on. And my theory is, I've taken a look at an NCAA report that said people who experience anxiety are 2.1 times more likely to get injured. So here you have elite athletes either coming out of high school or college, top, first-round draft picks, or free agents who've shown that, oh, we're going to be the top of our game, who are proud, highly competitive athletes who now unconsciously want to justify the money that's been spent on them, and unconsciously they're experiencing a little more anxiety, a little more pressure, a little more stress, and they don't deal with that well. It's at the unconscious level, and I think that is a significant contributing factor to some of their declines that we see. What do you think of that theory?
That's good information. I follow a lot of that. There's a couple of things that come into it. The first round draft picks, they're paid a lot of money at a young age. I just had one that went in the first round. He went sixth with the Chicago Cubs, Cameron Smith out of Florida. A prominent athlete out of Florida here that went in the first round. What I noticed different about him is the way he's raised, his family, his work ethic. I know he's going to be successful. I know he's going to be able to keep moving. You don't know a lot about these kids that get drafted high, about their home life, how they were raised, even though they're phenomenal athletes. Now they get put into this limelight, and if you don't perform, I'm telling you, in the minor leagues, unless you're a money guy that got a lot of money, you got 2 years. And if you don't perform, you're gone. There's another guy right behind you. The only reason they keep these guys a little longer is because they got money invested in them. Okay? And so that's one thing I see. And on the free agent side, I think they just get too comfortable with the amount of money they get. That's what I feel. They get paid these crazy contracts, and in baseball, it's 100% guaranteed. And there's an element of complaciveness and get comfortable, and maybe they start doing things a little bit different than they did that causes injury. Because I've seen it a lot. The number one injury in all of Major League Baseball, they track it from single A all the way to the major leagues. I ask these people all the time, what do you think the number one injury is? And they say, oh, it's arms, it's this. It's not. It's hamstrings. If you don't prepare right, because these guys are so big, so strong, they stretch and they do all their preliminary work, but then they stand and then they burst, and the hamstring can't take that. So injuries can be prevented. As far as the agency and the money, I think the biggest thing on a lot of these first round draft pick kids is their background, their family, and what they come from. Maybe my father was, an alcoholic. Maybe I came from a divorced family. Mentally, there's a lot of pressure put on them now that they've got this money to be able to perform at this level, but they're not prepared, like we talked about earlier, on the mental process of how to deal with this kind of success. You have to be taught that. I don't care if you can throw 100 miles an hour with your right hand and 100 with your left. If you're not mentally prepared to get, $12, $15 million and, and then be able to have to perform, you're setting yourself up for failure right out of the gate. I've seen it many times, and then I've seen it guys who get drafted like in the 5th and 6th and 7th round and don't get that lot of money seem to be a little bit more hungry, and they work a lot harder, and they seem to get there sooner. That's just my experience in working with a lot of professional athletes.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. Well, it's come to the end of our time, so thank you for joining me. I could talk with you for hours, talk baseball and sports and all that. But it's time for us to end the show. So for all of you out there, I'm sure you found a lot of this invaluable. It's been a really good conversation. And I don't know how many of you realize this, but in 2023, there were 10.5 million teenagers who reported that they had persistent feelings of sadness and hopelessness. And the reasons behind that can all be connected to one thing, their mindset. And parents, you're going to spend literally tens of thousands of dollars on things like sports training and camps and tutoring and test taking and then college. And you spend very little, if anything, on the one thing that's going to make or break their success, not just athletically and academically, but in life in general, and that's their mindset. So for all of those of you who are watching this, I'm going to make a special offer. And I usually have a strategy session that I make available up to an hour long. It's typically $350, but I'll waive that for anybody who's watching this. All you'd have to do is go to CoachChuck360.com. You'll see that information at the very end of this. Send me a text. There'll be a contact icon there, and you can send me a text with your first and last name, best email, and put podcast or show gift. And I'll make sure we get this call scheduled. No charge to you. We'll have a conversation, strategy session about your particular circumstance and situation, and some guidance and guidelines on what you can do about that. It is vital that we begin to help train that next generation to be leaders and to become masters of their mindset. So until our next show, enjoy.